I go by Eli. At 23, I just finished double majoring in computer science and business. For most families, that may be cause to celebrate. I was the first in my family to even attend college, much less graduate top of my class. For it was simply another day unless, of course, it was about my brother Jake's weekend football league or my cousin Amanda's new Etsy site. Then all at once everyone had spare time, energy, and money. But for me, completing 4 exhausting years with scholarships, late-night internships, and part-time jobs, that hardly merited a grunt. I nevertheless made an effort. I had always attempted. Growing up in a home where attention meant money, I learned to overcompensate. When Dad's back gave out, I handled the yard. When Jake forgot once more, I assisted Mom with groceries. Last winter, when Amanda unintentionally overdrafted her account and was unable to contribute to rent, I even paid the heating bill. I was the quiet achiever, the excellent son, and the supportive cousin. But after my graduation ceremony came and went with no relatives in the audience, no call, no text, not even a late night, congrats, I chose to take one final swing at believing I mattered. With the little money left, I reserved a downtown rooftop venue. Though not 5-star, it had a built-in speaker system, a view of the cityscape, and string lights. I ordered everyone's favorite meal, Jake's teriyaki wings, Amanda's vegan flatbread, even Grandma's strange fixation with coconut shrimp. I wanted no speeches or presents. Simply a night. Just one night when I felt noticed. I even created digital invites, including a Google Calendar notification. A week prior, I triple verified with everyone. Then, the night before. Everyone is impatient. You have earned this. Message gave me a glimmer of optimism I regret I had snuffed out earlier. I arrived an hour early on the night of the celebration. I wanted to be sure the food was ready, the beverages were cold, and the music I'd been obsessing on was running well. Wearing the one good suit I owned, black, slim fit, barely clinging to the shoulders I had been stress-shrinking beneath for months, I wore it. I waited at the door, grinning at every elevator bell like a Labrador hearing car keys. Then came silence. 5 minutes became 30. From 30 to 1 hour. The celebration should either wait or start cleaning up. I kept looking at my phone, reloading messages, checking traffic reports, even telling myself that maybe, just maybe, they had planned something bigger and this was all a setup. My phone buzzed at exactly 8:47 p.m., 3 Sprite cans deep and debating whether to just take a cab home. The image was a photograph. Everyone Amanda had tagged in it. Jacob, Mother, Father, Ron, Uncle, Grandma too. All in similar jammies, they lounged on my parents' living room couch with pizza boxes piled high and blankets strewn all over. What the title says. Movie night with family. We required this. The screen caught my fingers frozen. I magnified. Crooked on the wall behind them, my grad photo, the one I had sent to every relative weeks earlier, hung. Half covered by a balloon bouquet leftover from Amanda's last, soft launch celebration. I became parched. There was no error. They arrived on time. They weren't caught in traffic. They were never arriving. I did not get angry. I did not weep. Sitting on one of the hired folding chairs, I let the calm buzz of the city drown out the stillness in my chest. I went back through every message. Every unfulfilled promise. Every half-hearted effort. Your leadership to this far makes us really proud. The meal turned chilly. The venue management stated he'd waive the overtime fee with a sad little nod. I did not respond. I simply nodded back. I sat on the side of my bed, looking up at the ceiling when I returned to my own apartment, paid for by the freelance projects I juggled under still acing my finals. The same ceiling under which I once dreamed great things. Things like celebrations, travels, and promotions where my name wasn't forgotten halfway through a toast. Then it struck me. Difficult. Like a switch turning in a dark room. They wanted me more than I ever wanted them. That was when I took out my laptop. I logged into every shared utility account, internet, electricity. Even that tiny streaming bundle I'd added Amanda to last year since Hulu was too pricey for it just now. I had arranged everything in my name. All bills. Every convenience. All since it gave me the impression of being involved in something. I stopped briefly. Not precisely, it was not about revenge. It was about clear thinking. About coming to terms with the fact that, regardless of how many pizza nights I covered or errands I ran, I would always be a background figure in a film they cast themselves in. I texted one group. Good luck handling next month's expenses in my absence. I then blocked all numbers. Oh. One. Just one. Still not finished. Far from it. 3 days later, the quiet broke. And when it did, it arrived with screams. My mother's Facebook status began it. One of those theatrical, cryptic rants she believes makes her look like a stoic martyr, but just screams of self-pity and guilt-tripping. Some individuals lose sight of those supported them during their lack. Remember only that karma exists. No labels. No titles. The comment area, however, exploded in minutes. Aunt Linda offered a popcorn present, Uncle Ron posted a spill to T-meme, and Amanda, naturally, responded with, "Hope they understand family isn't optional. All we have is us." I saw it develop with the dispassionate curiosity of someone browsing a magazine they had no intention of purchasing. Part of me thought someone, anyone, would text me straight. Perhaps Jake, with a half-hearted, "Hey, everything okay?" Or perhaps Father, seeming oblivious to the situation. But not. Quiet. Up to day 4. Father's business phone, a number I knew but hadn't seen in months, rang on my phone that morning. It rang again then. Once again. Then my mother's cell. Then a random message from Jake's girlfriend. "I believe there is some misunderstanding. Did anything occur?" I disregarded everyone. But the one that made me chuckle, a harsh, piercing laugh, occurred at 2:19 p.m. texting from his usual number now, my father. "What caused the internet to go down? I am attempting to log into work. No hello. No, hi Eli. The party is not mentioned. Not sorry. Not even the slightest recognition of what had been accomplished. Simply a grievance. A request. A reminder that in their view, I wasn't a son or brother. I was technical support. I didn't answer. I meant to. Oh, how I wished to." I wrote at least 3 distinct replies. Some furious, some ironic. One has only a connection to a therapist directory. But ultimately, I simply turned off my phone and headed to the gym. I returned home that evening to 3 voicemails. All became more agitated. Mom's voice, weak and harsh. "We lack knowledge of what is happening. The smart TV won't function and your father cannot reach his payroll account. Amanda claims she cannot even access the shared plan. Did anything occur? Could we speak, please? Still no, sorry we skipped your party. Still no, we ought to have been present." Simply a long list of little annoyances that unexpectedly made me important. Having stopped all digital contact channel, I began getting mail, real letters, by the week's end. Grandma sent the first one. A shaky, handwritten note in her flowery calligraphy read, "Eli, I don't know what's going on, but everyone's angry. Call your mother, please." For days she has been sobbing. Weeping. She was now sobbing. When I was sitting alone on that rooftop, looking at uneaten shrimp and untouched cake, where were the tears? Where were they when I received 3 likes and no remarks after sending my graduation images to the family group chat? Where were they when I pleaded for only one night? Only one who didn't deliberately harm me, so I called her, and the talk made things so far worse. "Boyle," she picked up on the first ring. "Mother is a disaster. That you've been behaving chilly and lashed out." I gripped the phone more firmly. "You of my graduation celebration?" "Stop." "Not really," Grandma said softly. "She mentioned a scheduling conflict, that you tossed something last minute and didn't check with anyone." Cheeks burned. I have text confirmations, calendar invites, receipts. An Amanda voicemail stating, "We're all set for Saturday. Looking forward to it." And now they were saying, "Grandma, I never invited them correctly?" "Grandma," I murmured, my voice quivering, "I emailed them everything. Weeks ahead. I paid for the site. The meal. I scheduled it around their calendars. They remembered. They simply decided against attending." Once more, silence. Then her voice, more subdued. "I trust you." Your mother, however, swears. Naturally, she does. Admitting the truth would force her to acknowledge that, save for her own gain, she really doesn't care. That was when Grandma said something that resonated with me for days following. Eli, you've always been the one working the hardest. Perhaps it's time you allowed them to attempt for once. After that, I didn't say much. We bid farewell. I said to call her once more. And I meant it too. Still, I didn't unblock anyone. I did not start the payments again. I held firm. Rather, I began to live as though I were free. For the first time in years I was. Except that freedom has a peculiar way of provoking need. What about those who are desperate? They don't go down quietly. 1 week later, I returned home to something that altered everything. Sunny, quiet, Thursday mid-morning. Having just returned from a client meeting, I felt strangely light for someone who had just severed half their family. My flat now had a quiet I was beginning to appreciate. No buzzing messages. No unexpected favors. No guilt-shaded demands masquerading as love. Just me, the fridge's hum, and my tranquility. That was until I found the mail fastened to my door. Initially, I assumed it was perhaps a neighbor alert or delivery slip. Its front, though, had my name scrawled in strong, slanted pen. No address of return. No post. Just taped there, like a child's effort at being theatrical. I cautiously dragged it down, ripped the flap open, and took out one sheet of printer paper. Angry, typed, double-spaced. Eli, I don't know who you think you are, but this tiny tantrum has gone too far. One skipped party does not warrant this degree of contempt since we have been over backwards for you your whole life. Your father's unable to work, Amanda's Hulu access has been revoked, Grandma is now quite concerned. Some perceived insult is causing you to punish the entire family. It's mean and immature. I wish you to be proud. Mom. No, darling. Not really, honestly. No sign of regret or introspection. Just a typed allegation as though I were an employee they were about to terminate. I nearly chuckled. Nearly. But it sat in my hand like a slap that didn't immediately sting. Left only a severe pain that crawled up my arm and wrapped around my neck. That was the time I realized there would be no apologies. No calm awareness. No emotional phone call or tearful doorstep visit. Not at all. My mother was not the kind to acknowledge she had treated her kid like an afterthought for decades. She was the kind to change the narrative, distribute it like gospel, and wish everyone else sang along. Perhaps they would have. Perhaps Grandma, Jake, and the others would have consumed it like every other half-truth she had given them during the years. But this time I wasn't silent. That evening, I pulled out my ancient graduation slides, the ones I had assembled for the party no one attended. I launched a free website builder, inserted the images, included screenshots of every text conversation verifying the invites, the rooftop venue receipts, and even the set list I never got to perform. I then penned one caption at the top. Here is the graduation celebration you all skipped. Not since you forgot, but since I never mattered enough to appear for. I shared it on my social media. Comments locked. No tags. Simply a calm, lasting record of what transpired. Of how I partied by myself. Then it went off. Friends from college I hadn't spoken to in months sent notes like, "This devastated me, and I can't believe they did this." Even those I hardly knew posted it, calling it gut-wrenching and the most honest piece I've ever read. By morning, I had one message from Mom, voice trembling now, 3 missed calls from Amanda, and 2 from Dad. Elijah. That's too far. You are shaming us. What motivates your actions? For what reason? Because for once, they were experiencing what I had experienced all my life. Invisible. Not listened to. Not significant. The consequences hit new heights that weekend. Amanda arrived at my flat. I kept her outside. Before yelling through the wood, she pounded on the door for 5 full minutes. Many others have experienced things as well. You understand. Everyone has their problems. Arms crossed, quiet, I stood on the other side. Are you really simply going to ignore us for all time? About a party. But it had nothing to do with the celebration. The party had never been the focus. It was about every time they made me feel like I was a duty rather than a decision. Every time I was supposed to give, only to be told afterward that I was too sensitive when I required something in return. It was about the years I shrank myself so they could feel larger. Now that I had reclaimed my voice, they were in a frenzy. Not because they cared, but because their comfort was slipping through their hands. A few days later, I discovered they were attempting to spin it. Jake posted about family always being chaotic but worth fighting for. Amanda said, "People forget how much we did for him." I did not answer. Not to Amanda's yells. Not to Jake's damage control on social media. Not to the flood of guilt-laden letters that trickled in. Everyone attempting to spin the story. You're being unjust. We remain family. Adults don't deal with issues this way. Given I had spent years managing everything for them, the irony was nearly amusing. Like the lone adult in the room, they played emotional hot potato with every issue that arose. But remaining silent was no longer sufficient. That only worked until they turned my absence into a tantrum, a phase, or worse, a betrayal. I had to reclaim control of the whole story if I genuinely wanted to go on. Not only with receipts but with finality. That led me to start severing cords they didn't even know were still connected. First, the money. I had been silently covering more than simply utilities. A few years ago, when I received my first reasonably paying internship, Mom requested me to assist by including their cell phones on my family plan. Claimed it would cut costs for all. I didn't doubt it back then. Honestly, I was proud. As though at last I was meaningfully participating. That year, Jake's second-hand car failed and I co-signed for a newer model to assist him get a delivery work. Dad claimed it was transitory. Just till Jake established some credit. He never done that. Amanda once requested a short-term loan to cover her rent until her online store took off. I lent her $1,200. She never mentioned it again. They believed I had forgotten. They believed I would never apply it. They were mistaken. I began by shutting the phone account. Without notice. No grace time. Simply gone. I contacted the provider, described the circumstances, and got all 4 lines. Mine, theirs, even Amanda's, ended by the end of the week. Under a corporate arrangement, I transferred my personal number to a new carrier. I then phoned the auto dealership and asked to cancel Jake's payment permission. It was not difficult to justify since the car was still technically in my name and his payments had been tardy several times. The automobile was marked for repossession in 3 days. What about Amanda? I didn't even have to act. I had saved the Venmo receipts. I just sent her a formal letter detailing the debt, included all transactions, and told her I was turning the money over to collections in 30 days until she set up a payment plan. No feeling. Simply mathematics. I anticipated criticism. What I received, however, was panic. Jake called from a strange number. "Man, what is this? They're attempting to steal my automobile." Mom left a crying voicemail. "Eli, this is too far away. You're destroying your own family." Amanda emailed me, claiming she felt blindsided and betrayed, that I was weaponizing money against those who loved me. Loved me? They did not love me. They appreciated what I provided. The cash. The requests. The stillness. And now that I was removing that, they were gasping for air in a vacuum of their own creation. I remained quiet for 1 more week. I then wrote one last note. Not for them. For all others. I published a piece. Not upset. Not resentful. Simply truthful. I discussed maturing in a family where playing the background was expected. How my achievements were discounted, my milestones overlooked, and my support taken for granted. I mentioned no names. No little specifics. Only the whole reality. Regarding the celebration of graduation. The obligations. The utility bills I had been paying for 3 years. I put it on my personal blog, where just a few of friends still followed me. But in days it was shared. Then distributed once more. It didn't exactly go viral, but it made its way into many group conversations and inboxes. Messages started coming in from folks I hadn't spoken to in years. Former instructors. Classmates. Even neighbors who recalled my family dedication. Most of them stated the same. I had no clue. You always appeared to be the strong one. That was the goal. I had always appeared all right. I was trained to make everyone else comfortable while I longed for approval. But not any longer. 2 weeks roughly after the article, Granny phoned. I responded. Initially, she was silent. Then she spoke something that left me breathless. They began conversing. Actually conversing. Not directed at me. For one another. Your silence, in my opinion, accomplished what your presence could not. She said my mother had to turn to her own family for assistance, many of whom had stayed away for decades. Jake had been putting in greater hours. Given her rent was back to full price, Amanda had seemingly started running flash discounts on her shop to stay current with her credit card obligations. It wasn't retribution. It was a judgment. Though I didn't celebrate their suffering, I also didn't hurry to remedy it. I wasn't the cleanup crew for once. I was not the safety net. I was unencumbered. I didn't only sit in that liberty, I developed on it. The emotional clarity helped me to concentrate on my job. Started my own freelance computer consulting company. Picked up clients who respected deadlines, paid on time, and didn't treat me like an adjunct to their own achievements. I worked in Seattle, Boston, and even a short time in Berlin. Every time I passed a family taking graduation pictures or saw a rooftop venue, I felt whole rather than empty. I felt complete. I still speak to Granny. She's the only one who never attempted to gaslight me into quiet. Occasionally, she informs me of minor changes. How Jake is maturing slowly. How Mother's quieter now. How Amanda's at last understanding what a budget is. Though I don't request these specifics, I also don't stop her. I believe she is aware that I am not waiting for salvation. I am simply finished. One day, perhaps years from now, someone will attempt to contact. To say sorry. They might even mean it. But by then, I won't be waiting around. Healing didn't result from listening to apologies. It came from understanding I never required it to begin with.